common but dangerous misconceptions about stroke that most people never see coming. Did you know that long before the obvious signs like a drooping face or numbness in the arms, your body might already be quietly trying to warn you? These are subtle signals, almost like a biological code that most of us miss. In fact, studies suggest that up to 90% of adults overlook these early red flags every single day. In this video, we'll uncover the early warning signs of a stroke, those often ignored symptoms that aren't as loud or dramatic as you might expect. More importantly, you'll learn how to respond in time to protect yourself and your loved ones. What you discover here might completely change the way you think about strokes. So, what exactly is a stroke? It happens when blood can't reach a part of the brain, either because of a blockage or a burst vessel. And in just a few short minutes, brain cells begin to die. Even a slight delay in recognizing it can lead to life-changing consequences, from paralysis to death. Every year, millions of people around the world face this medical emergency. But why is the brain so vulnerable? Even though it's small in size, the brain uses up about 20% of the body's energy and depends entirely on a steady stream of oxygen-rich blood. Just a few minutes without it can cause permanent damage. When a stroke hits, every second truly counts. Many people know about the risk factors like aging or family history. But here's what makes stroke especially frightening. Most causes come from everyday habits we've grown used to. High blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, smoking, obesity, and even long-term stress. These familiar issues could be quietly damaging your blood vessels day by day. The real question is, why do we keep ignoring the dangers that are hiding in plain sight? The truth is, we're surrounded by a maze of overlapping risk factors. Processed foods, lack of physical activity, chronic stress, even polluted air. These are all silent contributors that may be helping stroke sneak up on you without warning. And when a stroke strikes, the consequences go far beyond personal health. It can devastate your finances, emotional well-being, and become a heavy burden for your entire family and even the community. But don't let that discourage you. Every preventive step you take starting today, no matter how small, holds incredible value. So how can you recognize this invisible threat before it strikes? The first thing to understand is that strokes usually happen in one of two main ways. The most common type is called ischemic stroke, which occurs when a blood vessel in the brain gets blocked. The second type, though less common but often more dangerous, is a hemorrhagic stroke caused by a blood vessel in the brain that bursts. While these two strokes differ in cause, their early warning signs can look very similar. So, how does the body try to alert you before a full-blown stroke happens? One of the most serious red flags, like a blaring alarm bell, is something called a Transient Ischemic Attack, or TIA. Some people call it a mini-stroke and brush it off. But don't be fooled by the name, there's nothing mini about it. The symptoms of a TIA are almost identical to a real stroke: sudden drooping on one side of the face, weakness or numbness in the arms or legs, or sudden slurred or unclear speech. The only difference: these symptoms usually disappear within a few minutes to an hour, and the person feels fine again. But that short-lived relief is exactly what makes it so dangerous. Having a TIA means your risk of a full stroke could be just hours or days away. A TIA is caused by a brief blockage of blood flow to the brain. It's a warning shot, a chance to act before permanent brain damage occurs. That's why a TIA is considered a medical emergency. It's your one shot to find the cause and stop a major stroke before it happens. If you or someone near you shows signs of a TIA or a stroke, remember this simple but life-saving rule: FAST. F is for face drooping. Ask the person to smile. Does one side of the face droop or look uneven? A is for arm weakness. Ask them to raise both arms. Does one arm drift down or feel too weak to lift? Yo. S is for speech difficulty. Are they slurring their words, unable to speak clearly, or having trouble understanding you? A T is for time to call 911. If you see any of these signs, even just one, don't wait. Call emergency services immediately. Every minute matters. It could be the difference between recovery and lifelong disability, or worse. The FAST rule doesn't just help you recognize a stroke, it's also a crucial tool for spotting a transient ischemic attack. TIA. Even if those symptoms disappear within minutes, the fact that they happened at all is a serious red flag. In addition, if someone suddenly loses vision, feels so dizzy they can't stand, or experiences an unusual and intense headache, they need to go to the emergency room right away. But here's something important to remember. Before the more obvious warnings like a TIA or the signs in FAST ever show up, your body may have already tried to speak up just very quietly. These whispering warnings can appear days, weeks, or even months before a major stroke hits. They're early signs that something's not right. And if you pay attention, you just might stop a disaster before it happens. The challenge is these early signs are often vague, easy to dismiss, or mistaken for something minor. But if you're in a high-risk group, like someone with high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, if you smoke or struggle with obesity, recognizing these signals could very well save your life. So, what are the early signs you should be watching for? Pay attention to odd sensations or changes in your body that seem unusual, happen more than once, or gradually get worse. For example, you start getting headaches that feel different, maybe in a new spot, with a different kind of pain or much more intense than you're used to. You feel brief numbness or weakness on one side of your face, arm or leg that goes away quickly, but then it happens again. You occasionally feel a little off balance, lightheaded or dizzy, and then it passes. Don't ignore it. Also, if you notice trouble finding the right words, maybe you stutter slightly or suddenly can't recall a word, you're trying to say that's something to take seriously. Some people experience temporary vision problems, like blurred vision flashes of light black spots, or even double vision that comes and goes. Even feeling extremely tired for no clear reason, a kind of fatigue that feels different from your usual tiredness, can be an early warning sign that shouldn't be brushed off. So how can you tell the difference between a real warning whisper and just an everyday annoyance? The key lies in noticing changes compared to your usual everyday baseline. Pay attention to whether these symptoms keep coming back, and especially whether they show up alongside existing risk factors like high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, smoking, or being overweight. If you already have these risks and start experiencing unusual signs more often, that's your cue to listen closely to what your body is trying to tell you. Knowing about these subtle signs doesn't mean you have to live in constant fear. On the contrary, awareness makes you more prepared and more in control. It gives you a major advantage, the ability to recognize when a small, seemingly harmless symptom might actually deserve your attention and a conversation with your doctor. Make sure you've saved 911 in an easy-to-access spot on your phone or written clearly in your home. If you or a loved one has any chronic health issues, keep a current list of all medications on hand. Know which hospital near you has a stroke treatment unit, and most importantly, create a family emergency plan ahead of time. That kind of preparation could be the very thing that saves a life. Now, stroke prevention might sound like a heavy responsibility, but I invite you to see it differently. It's not about a long, boring list of restrictions. It's actually a chance to reshape your life, step by step in a healthier and more empowering direction. Every small choice you make today becomes a building block in the protective wall for your future health. Maybe that means adding just 10 more minutes of walking to your day. Maybe it's choosing one extra veggie-packed meal this week, or simply cutting back on the salt in your cooking. These small changes really can have a big impact. If a stroke does happen, the road ahead may be tough, but never ever lose hope. Recovery after a stroke is not just about regaining physical abilities. For many people, it becomes a true rebirth, a journey where they rediscover who they are, uncover strengths they never knew they had, and sometimes even find a brand new purpose in life. If you've ever gone through a stroke or are helping a loved one through recovery, what's the most powerful lesson or inspiration you've gained? Share your story in the comments below. You never know, your experience might be the hope someone else needs to keep going.